Welcome back to the Capes and Tights podcast right here on capesandtights.com. I'm your host, Justin Soderberg. This episode is brought to you by our friends over at Galactic Comics and Collectibles at galacticcomicsandcollectibles.com. We are entering the holiday season a slight bit early this week with welcoming Jordan Hart and Chris Ryall to the podcast to discuss their horror holiday anthology, Dread the Halls, which is the second year it's happening. Jordan Hart is the creator of Eisner and Harvey Award-nominated comic series Ripple Effects, as well as The Cabinet. Chris Ryall is the co-founder and publisher of Syzygy Publishing, an imprint and image comics, and the co-creator of Dread the Halls. Chris also has been the publisher and president and all this other stuff over at IDW and a bunch of other places over the years. The two of them together created Dread the Halls. This is the second year they've been doing it. They also have Dread the Hall H, which comes out in the summer. But this year, horror holiday anthology coming out December 3rd, so check that out. But before you listen, follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Blue Sky, Threads, all those places. Rate, review, subscribe over on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you find your podcasts, as well as find us over on YouTube for the video portion of this podcast. And as always, you can visit capesandtights.com for more. Enjoy, everyone. Welcome to the podcast, you two. How are you today?
Doing great. How about you?
Yeah, great.
Okay.
Thank you.
It's always awkward when I say that when there's two people because you're like, who's going to answer? I don't want to talk over someone. Or but yeah, it's pretty easy. Also, I've already said that to both of you as we signed on to Zoom in the first place. So that's also the awkwardness of pressing record. But yeah.
Yeah, we're like, we're still good. Yeah.
We're still, it's changed a lot since I first met you here. It's actually horrible now. No, we're here technically not in the Christmas holiday season, but we're recording to release then. So happy holidays to you too.
Well, according to the Hallmark Channel, it's been the holidays for like a month already. So yeah, I think
day after Halloween, it starts.
Yep. I saw a clip on Instagram of this woman and her husband like coming back from trick-or-treating. And as she's walking into the house, the husband walks first and the kids go in. She like flips over a sign on the front steps from Halloween to Christmas. He like sits down on his chair or the couch to like change his shoes or take his shoes off. And she sneaks up behind him and removes the Halloween pillows and puts the Christmas pillows on. Like he within 30 seconds of being home, he just like blinks and the house is just Christmas all of a sudden. He's like, what the hell just happened? That's how the world is nowadays.
That's the world we live in now, for sure.
I feel like we should start a campaign of like selling Thanksgiving decorations, like making Thanksgiving something bigger than it is, so that at least that people are forced not to do that or something. You know, like take a break.
Yeah.
There's this publisher, Biblioasis, who puts out these little ghost stories, and there is an old tradition of like in the holiday season, at the end of the year, telling ghost stories. And so I think the natural transition from Halloween to Christmas and Dread the Halls, like it's a perfect fit.
I think so. So I've always said not Nightmare Before Christmas. Jack Skellington, like that to me is like a Thanksgiving film in my opinion, because like it has that Halloweenness to it, but also the Christmas. Like you watch that in November, and then my wife and I have always said if we're gonna watch Christmas movies or do anything early, we watch a little bit more of the horror Christmas or like the oddball Christmas movies, and not the ones that feature like Rudolph and things like that. That's what this month is for. Is a little bit more of that. Like okay, I'm not ready to actually like put the tree up. It's more like I want to watch, a horror Black Christmas or something like that.
Yeah.
And that's what's perfect for Dread the Halls. But yeah, so Jordan, you've been on. You talked to Cabinet when you were on last time, and much more. And Chris, you're the first time on here. You've been in comics for a long time, so I don't want to bore people with how you got into comics because your story's probably long, Chris, and that you've done a lot of jobs and been in this industry for a while now. Not saying you're old. I'm just saying that it's been, you're not a freshman in the world of comics by far. But how did you two come together? Like, I know obviously we'll talk about how Dread the Halls came together, but how did you two meet and start doing this thing together? If you want to start off, Chris.
Yeah, it's funny. Like you say, I've been doing this a while, and I've kind of reached the point where when people ask, I'm like, I've been in comics for about 2 years, because it's been a couple decades now. But I mean, Jordan and I were like music and comic buddies before we ever worked on like actually doing projects together. So it was just the kind of thing we would talk about old comics, and I don't remember how that started.
I do.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I moved to California in like late 2013, and I knew at that I've been reading comics since I was 4, and I knew that I wanted to write comics. So Chris was in San Diego at IDW, and he was literally the first editor I cold emailed, like right at the top too. Go to the editor in chief. And he actually responded, and he's like, "Yeah, come over to the office for 15 minutes. It'd be great to meet." Like we were talking about music. Somehow, I think I'd written an article for the Huffington Post that was
Mm.
about hair metal, I believe, and he saw that, and he's like, "Dude, you like hair metal?" And then we just started talking about that. So yeah, it was 2014. I went to the IDW offices. First time I ever stepped foot in a comic publisher. First editor I ever met. I'm like, "This is great. Comic editors are going to get back." And then fast forward 10 years of just never getting a reply or never getting anything. And I'm like, oh, he's a rare unicorn in this industry, and he is for many reasons. But yeah, that's how we started. He was kind enough to hit reply on a cold email, which is like I would say a 3% chance
Yeah.
in comics. So yeah.
And sometimes it works out. Like, but I
Yeah.
do. Yeah. Now I guess I probably should have been more standoffish in general and just try to develop some mystique. But instead, like, I don't know. I used to pitch back before I got into comics, and it always annoyed me that people didn't reply. I'm like, it feels like the reply is the least you can do when somebody reaches out. And so yeah, I've always tried to get back to everybody, but especially when they want to talk hair metal and old comics, like
Yeah.
those are my things. Like that's the perfect gateway.
Yeah, we're talking Rat and Jack Kirby. I mean, what else do you want? And I was like,
Yeah.
you know Rat, you know Trixie. I'm like, who is this guy? And it took off from there.
Jordan, you didn't like tell people like, oh, so if you want your comic published, like you call up Chris over there, talk about hair metal, and you'll get a meeting with him. Don't worry
Yeah,
about it.
Yeah.
insider tip for sure. So
They're like,
Or
I
like
like
the
Tesla. Here's my
opposite.
pitch. Yeah.
yeah.
Go in there and say I hate music, and there you go. That way your comic gets pushed to the front, and everybody
Totally.
else's gets pushed to the back.
I can see
It
it
was funny because
already.
I
I was
remember
like,
when I was sorry.
I was gonna say as I was telling that story, I'm like, great, Chris is gonna get like 3 years of rock music only themed comic pitches from now on, but maybe it'll be fun.
But I mean, like when I was a kid, like Anthrax would sing about comics and stuff, and so there was always that weird crossover anyway. And so when you found anybody that could speak both, it was like George says, that's a unicorn, and that's people I want to hang out with.
Yeah.
I agree. I'm cool with that too. I mean, it's a cool connection, but that's like obviously a number of years ago now, and now we're at Dread the Halls last year. So you've had three. This is your third, Dread the Halls adjacent book. Because obviously a Dread the Hall H that came out around San Diego Comic Con, but this is the second holiday themed one. Whose idea was it originally to do this? Though? Like, was it Jordan? Was it Chris? How did this come about? Did you guys like call each other at the same time? And be like, we should make a Christmas or holiday themed book.
Well, it's funny because again, like old comics were kind of the gateway to the conversation. There
Hmm.
was this comic that Marvel did way back called Bizarre Adventures, and it used to be a magazine, but for some reason they switched from the magazine format to a comic, and it's like I think maybe just their final issue, and it was all Christmas horror stories. Um, and we both just loved it. It was just one of those that like somehow we came across and like just stuck in our heads, and we're like, wouldn't that be cool to do more stuff like that? And I think that was just kind of the gestation of the idea of like, yeah, why not? Why not try to do more, you know, holiday themed horror stories in a unique way? And so again, yeah, that was kind of the lead into it all.
I think that myself personally, I try to like plan things around. Like I watch horror movies and read horror novels and things like that in comics all year long. But I try to make sure that like when I'm in October, like that I'm not reading something different. I'm not reading a romance or like I'm trying my best to be like, okay, this is the month to focus on it, even though I do it all year round. This is the month. But I
Yeah.
also feel like I shift that, November is a whatever month. And then I shift it into December where it's like I want to try to get the, like, books that come out in previous years, even that like the trade is now out, and I want to read that during December. And so I try to focus on that, so I can see the pull towards that, and I think that horror is awesome, and so like mixing like a more horror themed anthology together on that is amazing. What though specifically to the both of you is holidays? Is there something about the holidays that really pulls you into it? And then how did that connection to horror really vibe from Jordan?
I think the holidays and horror just go together so well because it's all about peace on earth and joy and happiness. And then like that's always the key to a great story, any story, is to get that like contrasting worlds and smash them together. So that's like, what I've always loved. Why, like Chris said, the Bizarre Adventures 34, it's like a Joe Jusko cover with Santa in the chimney, but he's a skeleton. And like it
Yeah.
could be an Anthrax album cover. It could be a comic. So like it just works so well. And like it's nothing new. Christmas Story, right?
Yeah.
Maybe one of the most famous horror ghost stories of all time, right? So yeah, it just wait, is it a Christmas story? Did I quote
Christmas
that?
Carol.
Christmas
Christmas
Carol.
But I
Carol,
mean, you
that's
could
right.
put your eye out with the BB gun too.
Yeah,
So
yeah. I
they're
mean
both
there
they're
is
both
some horror in there.
horrific.
Your
Yeah.
tongue getting stuck on a pole, which
Yeah.
Justin, being from the north, I'm originally from Wisconsin. That's real. That will
Yes,
happen.
right now.
So,
Like it's
yeah,
November and I could do that probably right. It snowed
yeah.
yesterday in my town in
Oh
Maine here
man.
in Newport, Maine. It
Crazy.
snowed yesterday. It's gone now, but it was snowing. I was like, what the hell? It's not even
Too
Thanksgiving yet.
soon.
What's going on right now?
Yeah,
But
that's too soon. So
yes,
I
it's
think that's
horror.
just where it came from. And like EC and DC, they did great Christmas horror covers back in the day. And one thing Chris and I, as you can see, we're huge fans, and I think we're fans first. That's why we're in comics. So we had this like love of it that existed, and we just thought, well, why not do our own, try it ourselves.
It's funny how you mentioned how like there's that juxtaposition obviously between holiday happiness, everybody's getting together, and that horror side of things. My my wife's a huge like cheesy Hallmark movie kind of person, and she's the person who October 31st we kind of talked to the calendar switches over to November 1st, and she's ready for holiday, at least holiday movies. The house still is in disarray with Halloween candy everywhere, but she wanted to watch a holiday movie the other day. And on Halloween, she wanted to watch a scary movie. And again, she doesn't watch these kind of things. So we're talking about it. I'm trying to like, what movie do I want to watch that's not over the top, something that I can watch? I'm like, something that's horror, but not like super horror. I'm like, well, maybe Get Out or something like that, where it's like not going to be like blood and guts everywhere, but like something. We watched
Yeah.
Halloween Town. Okay, so that's where we ended up on that on Halloween. So
Yeah.
fast forward this past weekend, she's like, oh, I want to watch a Christmas movie. So whatever, you pick it. She picked a Hallmark movie. It's
Which
called
one?
a novel Noel. It came out last year. It's about a bookstore in a fake town in Maine called St. Ives, where someone comes in December and takes over the bookstore for a month, lives in the apartment upstairs, and so it's actually wasn't that horrible.
She's an
But
editor, right? I've seen
yes,
it. She's
yes.
like, yeah, she's
So
like an editor from New York that's
yes,
there to like
and she doesn't
whatever.
tell them that she's an editor. And then the guy ends up writing a book, and so he's
Yeah,
whatever. But I
yeah.
was like, as she's like setting this whole story up, I'm like, my wife's name is Taylor. I'm like, Taylor, this could be a horror movie. I'm like, just the way that he's like going to a town you don't know for a month. You're getting to live in the apartment upstairs, like all this other stuff, like all these things with one slight twist in
Hmm.
it. Could be blood and guts, a horror movie altogether. So yeah, I can see that connection. But what takes Dread the Halls? What makes it special? Because obviously other people are doing this. This is not like, oh my gosh, you two are the pioneers of Christmas horror comic books. What makes it special and different than everything else? I think the design, Jordan. I think that the name, the design, all that stuff is absolutely stunning, and that's a draw. But otherwise, what focus did you have on making this different than any other horror story that comes out near Christmas?
I think the editor
I
in
mean, for us, like it's I think it's just the fact that we're both writing into the stories ourselves, so it's not just like casting a wide net and taking various pitches and things like that. Like so it's very much run through our sensibilities. So I kind of always approach stories with a bit of the ridiculousness, I like to throw in bits of dark humor where I can. And I think I don't know what makes anything special is the people telling those stories. And so we just try to we've read, like Jordan says, we've read comics our entire lives. And so we've seen a lot of good and bad. And so you kind of get a sense of what works and what doesn't. And you also get a sense of what's been done. And so we're just trying to find unique ways into stories that maybe other people have approached. Like I do a knockoff, a version of Christmas Carol in this book, but
Mhm.
I sort of headed it in a direction that I hadn't seen before. And I think that's kind of all we can do is find a cool high concept and then take it in a unique and interesting way that hopefully we haven't seen anybody do before.
Yeah. And speaking of Hallmark, the lead story this year is the reason I know that I watched a ton of Hallmark movies and I've
Yes.
always thought the same thing. So literally the lead story this year is a Hallmark movie that the rug gets pulled out on. And I mean, I did it all the things it did. The main character's name is Holly. Her love interest's name is Nick. The mechanic is Chris. It's set in a town called Christmas Dale. She gets in a car accident, gets stuck there. It's like all the stuff that you see on the Hallmark Channel, and then it just flips. And to Chris's point, with us just doing it, I do feel like a really big sticking point for both of us is art. Like we want to like release the best looking art of the season, and we want the widest range. Like our goal is for every story to look different and like just completely stand on its own. So, as two writers that do the series, like our goal is always really art first to really just make it something different and something that seems fresh.
You
And I
mentioned the
think Justin,
artwork.
like you were saying,
Yeah.
sorry,
Good.
just to just
No.
sort of kind of punctuate it, Justin, like you were saying earlier, there is a fine line between sort of the treacly, sappy Christmas story that I think, we all enjoy, especially when you're spending time with family and friends around the holidays. But there's like, I'm a genre guy, so I am almost every story I read, I'm like, that was good, but it'd be better with a monster of some sort. And so, that's kind of the starting point with the Christmas stories is like, what's a cool, fun Christmas story that I can then make into something a little horrific by just turning the dial or heading in one slightly different direction.
I love that because my wife and I, every time we're like in like Home Goods and I see a picture of like a cow on like one of the picture frame area or whatever, I'm always like, oh, that's great. But it'd be much better if it was like a like slit across and blood was going down. I did this joke like once, like 5 years ago. And every time I see something, I'm always like, that's cool. But like, it'd be really good if there was an axe murderer in the behind it. And she's like, will you stop doing that? I'm like, that's just where my brain thinks. I'm like, that's cool, but it would be better as a horror film. And they thought the
Yeah.
same thing. I'm like, the movie wasn't like out of all the Hallmark movies that I've seen, this novel novella wasn't horrendous, but it did have all those tropes and all those things. I'm like, I live in Maine. There's not a town in Maine that has a downtown village area that's dressed up like Christmas like that for an entire month. I'm sorry, it's just not existing.
Mm.
First of all,
Not even
most of
Bar
Christmas
Harbor.
is
Bar
not even
Harbor doesn't do
snowy.
it.
No, it's not even snowy yet. We don't get real big snow until like
Yeah.
January. Like it's like funny
Mm.
about December. Like we're always like Christmas. Are we gonna have snow on Christmas? Like it's just
Mm.
nowadays with the way the global weather is, it's like I don't even know what we're gonna get. We could get 80 degrees on Christmas Day. I have no idea. But this is so funny, like how like that there's that thing, and I think that story you mentioned, that the opening story is that it's like you just look at it, you're like, yeah. Yeah, I would love Hallmark to just one day do it, and all of a sudden, nowhere like flip a switch, and all of a sudden, nowhere it's just a horror film, and we're like, "What is going on? Hallmark has gone
Yeah.
crazy."
Totally.
But you mentioned the artwork, and I love that. Like that's the point. And I think when I was reading, Jordan, you sent me the copy last night, and I was reading it, and I was like, wait a second, where did I remember that? I love these anthologies that have such different artwork. And I would probably was Dread the Halls 2024 that I actually originally thought
Mm.
that. I was like, wow, this is
Right,
pretty cool.
right.
Because there's like different artwork for each one of them. And then there's like completely different artwork in one or two of them. Like there's just like, it's not even like, oh, this is a different style, or I like this person's lines, or like this colors or whatever. It's like there's one story that just is completely different than everything else in the artwork style. And that was cool because I mean, it's like multiple different of comics in one. Like you have your 72 pages. It is like it's 4 or 5, 6 comics in one thing, which is nice. And it's you don't have to wait for it. It's not one of those things that like there are Christmas stories that come around. I mean, Tiny and the Deviant is Christmas adjacent, but you had to wait. It's like it started coming out in August, and like
Yeah.
you're reading about Christmas in October, so they can get the issues out. This is like, okay, December 3rd, you're gonna be able to get this. You're gonna be able to read it. You're gonna get the whole thing. I'm guessing that was important. It was important to do that, and also important to do it as a 72 page one shot and not a graphic novel or anthology, trade paperback. Like you want it to be like in the probably the approachable price range for people and all that stuff. You can get it done all in December, things like that. I'm guessing that was all important in this too, right? The way you released it as well.
Correct. Yeah. And the nice thing about it being a single issue as opposed to a trade is, covers are so great.
Mhm.
Like maybe it's because we just want to fill our spinner racks as you
Yeah.
saw this, but like when we do a one-shot issue, we can get 5 to 7 covers, and we try to like not make them incentives and charge a ton for them because we just truly want like people to like use them as a decoration and like get in the festive spirit. But Chris puts a lot of thought to the release window, too. Like, if you want to talk about how you decide, like, the fine line between coming out too early when
Yeah.
people aren't ready for Christmas, but then like,
Yeah, I mean the goal is to not only kind of get out in front of the what seems like now a glut of Christmas horror anthologies that are happening all over the place, but also make a good book that not only gives a lot of value to people. It's 6.99 and
Yep.
72 pages, which I think is a great page count for dollar value, especially compared to a lot of the others I've seen. But also, you want to make a book that gives comic stores, plenty of shelf time. Like a lot of books have a 1 week shelf life and then gone and on to the next thing. We figure if we can get this out first week of December, it's a book that they can sell all month long because people are kind of in that Christmas mindset all month long. And so yeah, we wanted to get out of the gate quickly and offer a whole lot of value with the book. So and I think we've done those things.
Yeah, I think so. And I think that like the Wednesday before Thanksgiving is also a really weird Wednesday. I feel like there's a lot of people who, like myself, like if I'm traveling, I might not pick up my books at my local comic book shop until the following week anyway. So like you might put it out a week prior and then all of a sudden no one's actually going to read it until the following week anyway. So it actually kind of makes sense. Plus it does nice. It's a nice thing to be out in December. It's a holiday thing. Let's put it out in December, December 3rd. I think it works. It's a nice timing on that.
Yeah.
But I do think the price is huge. I think we talked about it at my local comic book shop, Galactic Comics in Bangor, Maine, that it's tough nowadays. Like there's this like, we talked about previous catalog. We were talking about how like he just gave them to like some of his loyal customers, but there's a price on those things when they were for sale. Like you were supposed to buy that. And I'm like, there's no way in hell that I'm going to see someone pay $5 something that they could put $5 towards an actual single issue of a comic book. I'm like, it seems so weird because people are doing that right now. They're tightening their belt, like we're trying to figure that out. And so December is also slightly slower in the comic book industry. Like I was like going through and looking at like what books are coming out in the next month, 2 months. And I'm like, December kind of sucks for not like overall. There's some good stuff coming out, but like there's not much. Like it's not one of those things. Like I do a featured 4 every week of 4 comics that I'm looking forward to. And it was hard sometimes to fill the 4 comics because I'm like, I guess I could talk about the 3rd issue in this mini series or something like that. But like that also helps with this time of year. Like it gives us something new to read, something fun to read. We know it's the time of year. It's again 72 pages. I read it in one sitting, but if someone wanted to, they could read, your first story and then put it down and come back to read the second story and so on and so forth and get a lot out of it for $7. Like I think it's a.
I mean,
it's
it's
a
gonna
deal.
feel like it's gonna feel like a soft cover trade paperback,
Yeah.
like it's got the spine, like it's gonna have some real heft to it. And so again, we wanted that. We wanted to give people just, I don't know, like you say, something special to end the year, give retailers something special that they can hopefully do well with all month long. And I don't know, also have plenty of pages so we can have fun and tell all kinds of different stories.
So promoting a story. So if you like, for example, Jordan, when you're promoting the cabinet, you're promoting a one whole story over 5 issues and all that stuff. Promoting this is a little bit. You can't really spoil any of this because it spoils the whole thing. I mean, you can because if you spoil like that's the same thing also with short stories. It's like you really can't spoil anything because there's such a small finite number of pages per story that if you spoil even the slightest thing, oh, it's on the first page. I'm like, well, that's part of the 5-page story, so you have to like not do that. Is it more difficult to kind of come on here and do this, like to promote a story like this, or is it just the holidays? People want this kind of stuff, so it's kind of easier that way.
You're exactly right. Yeah, we gotta lean into the holidays, into the excitement, and yeah, the covers. We just try to really like make it. Hey, it's a stocking stuffer, and like Chris said, especially this year with the higher price count, it is a mini trade. It's got like thicker covers. It has a spine. It's perfect bound, so
Hmm.
it's going to feel, I think, worth like a $10 prestige edition. So it's got a great value. So we try to do that. But to your point, we try to run previews of each story, and it's like you can't really do more than 3 pages because after
Yeah.
that, it's like, I don't
Might as well just put the whole story out there. It's like, I
exactly.
guess that could be an option if you had a story of a year where you're just like, we're going to release one of the stories. So you kind of get an idea what the whole book's going to be like. But then in order the rest of the stories, you have to buy the whole thing. But yeah, do you have a list? Like, are you guys, obviously, this is the second one you've done that's holiday themed. Is there like a running, like, shared notes page of all this or a Google Drive of all the stories you'd want to tell on these things?
No,
No,
we probably should have that. I think separately we've made a bunch of notes. So like we'll email or text each other with the thought of like, hey, next year I want to do this, or I'm planning to do this. What do you think? That kind of thing. But yeah, maybe I guess we could formalize it a bit more and have a central depository for various thoughts. But yeah, we have thoughts for the next Comic-Con Dread the Hall H issue, for next holidays issue. So yeah, it's one of those things where it's like once you've started it, there's always other stuff that's occurring to
Oh
you
yeah.
that you want to get to next time.
Yeah. And we have never done it for this Christmas one, and I'm surprised we've never had overlap, honestly, especially
Well,
it's been almost 10 stories. But, a big thing about this series for me is like I love getting the story done and just sending it to Chris to hopefully like get him excited or to make him laugh or to like make him smile because we're such close friends, but also he's gonna roll his eyes, but he is an industry legend, you know what I
yeah.
mean? Like he is. So it's like I'm always like trying to write for, they say write for yourself, which I do, but like I try to write for Chris too, and like kind of jolt him and shock him
Mhm.
and hear what he thinks, and then say, "Did you see any typos or does this work?" Then ask him. But yeah, we are a lot tighter, I'd say, on Hall H because like that's at a Comic Con, so like we
Yeah.
have to make sure we're doing different stuff, just to keep it different and also we try to like well we're going to try this isn't a spoiler guys
Yeah, yeah, we
trying
have.
to like we're gonna this year at Dread the Hall H we're gonna try to weave our stories together so there's like a shared continuity so we'll be a lot tighter on the
Well, I guess the main reason I asked, I just recently went to a book event, the End of the World as We Know It, which is the anthology horror
Yeah, yeah.
stories based around Stephen King's The Stand.
The Stand, yeah, yeah.
And I went to the release party here in my area, and three of the authors were there, and they were talking about how obviously it'd be a little bit more difficult when you have multiple people doing this compared to just the two of you. But like they were like, oh, we have a dog story, so we can't do that. We have, like there was like
Yeah.
things you can't do. Like, so is that all in the communication though? Like if you were to tell, like I'm doing something based on the Christmas Carol, and so that Jordan do not touch that because we already have one of those. I'm guessing those are the kind of conversations that you do have though.
Cor-
Yeah, like I knew early on Jordan had a Krampus story and a sort of a specific and personal Krampus story he wanted to tell. And so I was never going to try to, well, I have a Krampus story too, so then it's just like you find other outlets. And it just feels like there is an endless number of paths we can take to kind of, make horrific different parts of the holidays.
Well, you don't say, Chris, like, oh, it's my publisher, so I'm gonna do it the way I want to do it. Jordan, you take a back seat.
Not at all. No, it's
never
absolute democracy. Yeah.
yep yep never he
Well,
could
so we're not gonna publish this now because Jordan let me do what I want, and we're not gonna publish.
Yeah, right.
That's how relationships work really well, right? Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
I mean, it's true though, and I think that it also, I don't think, I also think that Christmas is one of those ones that like I'll watch four different Christmas Carol movies in one Christmas season. Like I don't, it doesn't matter to me that they're all the basic same story with different variations to it. Like you'll watch I want my favorite Christmas movie of all time is The Muppets Christmas Carol. So I'll watch that.
That's I was gonna say that's the only answer to that question. Yeah, that
I,
is the
I
best.
told my son's 4. He's watching, like he's watched them in the past, but like this year he's actually like grasping some of
Mm.
it, and I'm like, these two, Gonzo and Rizzo the Rat, could you know narrate anything, and I would watch it. Like I don't understand why there's not more like that. Like I don't like I would
I
love
know.
to hear like any movie possible, any old classic tale, just have these two narrate the whole thing, and I would absolutely be
Yeah,
100% okay with that. And
yeah.
he's like, oh my God, he's like, I saw a rat the other day on TV. He's like, it's Rizzo. I'm like, yep, Rizzo the rat. Like, we gotta do this. I want a Rizzo the rat tattoo. Like, it's so bad. I want this. But I'll watch that one. My wife likes the Mickey Mouse one. I'll watch,
Mm.
classic ones. And so you technically, I mean, there's gonna be some crossover in this. Dread the Hall H, I'm expecting, where people are like, I don't really don't want like two anthology stories to be almost identical in this book. Whereas again, you could
Right.
tell two Santa Claus stories in Dread the Halls, and no one would really probably bat an eye at it because that's what this season is mostly about.
yeah
Yeah, although the cool thing is somehow even not like orchestrating it too tightly,
Yeah,
like we haven't had any kind of weird
no,
overlap. And I mean, every story does feel unique and different, and they almost feel like stories pulled from different eras because the art styles are also different. And I think that was important to us is just not to have stories that kind of have a uniform look and feel, which, some of these anthologies do, especially when it's like corporate characters and they're
mhm.
all drawn, not a house style, but I think we have a bit more freedom to push in all kinds of wild directions. And I think we try to take that freedom as much as we can.
It's not necessary, but it almost feels necessary to do the different art style too, though, because like you don't want them to all look the same, because then they're different
Yeah.
stories with different characters and different universes in a sense. And so like you
Yeah.
probably if they all look the same, you're like, wait a second, that Santa Claus was in that last one, and I don't understand what's going on
Yeah.
here, and they're not connected in that way. But it also
Totally.
gives people, I think, also if I gave it to a Christmas this Christmas anthology or holiday anthology, I should say, to someone that's not huge into comics, it gives them a little taste of like the variations of storytelling and art styles that are out there. And I think that changes a little bit. If it was all the same and they didn't like that art, then you might not be a fan of the whole thing. But if you're like, oh yeah, I'm not a big fan of that, but it's only 5, 6, 8 page story, you can just move on to the next one. You can read the next story, and so on and so forth. But you also you guys have voices that are similar but also different, which is good. And so you do get almost the feel that the bigger cast of characters are
Mm.
creating this thing, without having to have the bigger cast of characters creating these things. You have the artists that are different, but to have you two telling these stories, but there's just enough of a difference that I'm also like, okay, I can see they're not the same person, which is pretty cool, and it makes it easier. I think, yeah. I don't know if you agree, but I'm
Yeah.
Definitely.
Well, and if I can, so not to just reciprocate the compliment,
yeah.
but Jordan is definitely sort of the unsung or the MVP of these books, like the design on these books, like you were mentioning, Justin, the logo design, and then the title treatment that every
Mm,
single story gets, with the credits and the sort of wrapping paper background and his wrapping paper cover, and there's just a sort of look and feel that shows care kind of above and beyond what is often
mm.
delivered or expected in these kind of things. And I think that just makes the cover to cover experience so much more gratifying and cool. Like I love that lead in, as a fan of this stuff as much as a creator of it. I love those kind of extra touches that really just kind of show the love and care that are put into these things. And I think Jordan is, the reason for this book feeling special and standing out amongst all the others.
I agree. My day job, I'm a graphic designer, a creative director for a brewery. So like design
Mm.
is always a huge thing that stands out to me. It stands out more, and I don't know if Jordan, you agree with this, when it's bad, than it does when it's really good. I'll tell you that much. Like when you see
Yeah.
a title treatment of a comic,
Always.
I'm like, who said yes to that? Like who in the right mind?
Especially on massive books. That's what blows my mind. And then
I'm
it's like,
thinking like big two books. I'm like, who said
yeah,
yes to that title
I
treatment?
know.
Like, jeez.
Yeah.
All I can picture is someone was like, oh crap, we don't have a title. Someone, hurry up, someone do this last minute, and they threw it on there and they just sent it to press. Because I
Totally.
just sometimes I'm like, oh, but then there's other sides of things. It's like lettering, in my opinion. Like lettering is one of those ones that shouldn't stand out, but sometimes it does in such a good way. But I feel like it should just blend in with the comic that you don't really know. You're just reading along and so on and so forth, which I think you have a talent for, Jordan, as well, is
Thank
that
you.
in that lettering side of things. But yeah, so like this is like it's beautiful, and I think that you talk about page count and price. I don't think, and a lot of people, and the novice, and this is not a knock at any comic book reader, but like the novice comic book reader who goes in there and just picks up a comic, it's the price. It doesn't matter how many pages it is. It doesn't matter, but what they get it, if they get it and it's not quality, I think that's when they start going, oh, I'm not going to try that again. Like if they get the book and it's got no page breaks in between stories, or no, the title's kind of bad, or the, credits page is not that good, or so on and so forth. If you get it and it's perfect bound, like you mentioned, and has great artwork on top of the artwork for each story, it just adds so much more value to the comic. And I think that having you attached to it, Jordan, and be able to do this kind of stuff, makes it easier for both of you.
Thank you both. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you both. Yeah. Chris knows I like go full tilt on these. That was ultimately, I want to be proud of it too, and I've like gotten approached more to be a designer and writer in this, or a designer and letterer.
Mm.
Sometimes the writer is like, no, it's not what I want to do. And they're like, but Dread looks so good. I'm like, yeah, but that's like different, like, because that's our book, you know what I mean? Like,
Yes.
I don't want to, I don't need to do that for, other stuff. I mean, I wouldn't mind it, but I like writing way, 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 way more. And the coloring, the lettering, the design is always just to save money, to put more money into the artists. So I'm glad it's connecting though.
It also means Jordan gets hammered at the deadline time, because all the crunch time, all the last changes, all the
Yeah.
nitpicking, all the
Yeah.
file prep, all of that
Yeah.
ends up falling on him too. So there's a downside to it as well, I'm sure, but the end result is so good. And I don't know, like you say, there's not only is there a ton of comics out there, but it's a tough economic environment. And I mean, we're asking people to spend $7 on a book that they don't know. It doesn't feature Batman or Spider-Man, So, I mean, I, we appreciate every retailer and every customer who picks this thing up. And so you want to make it worth their while, and whatever the cost is, like something costs too much if it sucks. And you don't think about the price as much if it feels like it delivered on or exceeded your expectations. And so that's what we're out to do, is try to exceed whatever people expect from these books.
I mean, it's the cost to the consumer is there too, but the cost to the retailer is there too. Obviously, a more book that costs more money to buy for the retailers too. So they have to when they pay their price for it. And I don't know if people know the economics of comics or not, but I'm not going to say it, so you can figure it out on your own. When you pay what you pay, you also need to move that faster, or want to move that faster, if you think just straight up financially, than a $4 book, or what used to be the Spawn series at $3 is that it's a lot. You can sit on those a little bit longer when they cost half as much to buy, and so they also are more pushing that, I think, to it. I think what's happening is this is the second iteration. So I'm hoping, or for the holiday season, at least one, I'm hoping that the first one was one where people were like, I'm coming in to get this, and they didn't have any because they didn't order enough or whatever it may be. And that this time around, they're actually had planned ahead and are planning to order more of these to have in stock. Because again, like you mentioned, it's not evergreen, but it's evergreen each season, I guess. I don't know how many people are going to be like, I'm going to read this book in February. But like, if you don't, buy it and put it on the shelf and then read it next holiday along with next year's iteration and things like that. Pull it out every year. And that's the other thing is, I haven't done it yet, but you don't think I'm going to pull out last year's book and read it this holiday season? 100% yes. Right. And it'd be cool. Like,
and then get yourself a spinner rack and then outfit your spinner rack with Christmas covers, including Dread, every holiday season too. So that's the ultimate end game, is eventually we will be selling Dread the Hall branded spinner racks.
Yep.
Well, I think year 5, you need like a hardcover, hardbound one collecting the first 5 years of Dread the Halls, so that you have something you can pull out. And because like I have a tradition. My dad always had loved to read us stories during Christmas. So my son, when he was born in 2021, the tradition was every Christmas we buy him a different version of Santa Claus. Santa Claus is coming to town, like the night before Christmas. And so like every year, so he has a rat, this will be the 5th year. He has 5 of those books every year, and he reads them. My dad lives in Connecticut. We live in Maine, so it's usually via Zoom. But he reads the book on Christmas Eve to him. And so I was like, well, maybe I'll just switch to that when he gets older. We'll just switch to just have my dad read Dread the Halls on Christmas.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah. I think it's perfect. I think it works out perfectly for us. No, there is that. And I do think that, like I said, that the horror is I hate to say it's having its time, because I feel like it's always been there. I just feel like it's people are seeing it more. And I think that there's some amazing horror comics that are out there right now, and to blend that into the holiday season. And this, to me, stands on its own, because if you're not a Spawn fan, for example, you might not read their holiday book. If you're not a so-and-so fan, you might not read their holiday book, and so on and so forth. Where this one stands on its own, you can take a chance on it and actually read this thing and just be like, if you're just a fan of the holidays and horror, this will meet your needs. It's harder. Like, if you're not a Spider-Man fan, why are you going to read the Spider-Man Spectacular Holiday? It's a category of its own. And so Dread the Halls has a little bit of everything in it, which doesn't have Spider-Man in it, or at least legally it doesn't. I don't know. Yeah, I don't want to spoil anything for anybody. Spider-Man is not in this comic book. I'll just let people know that now. I can spoil that one.
Yeah.
But it's true. I think it stands on its own, because again, you don't have to be connected to anything unless you're other than horror in the holidays. You don't have to be a fan of anything in particular.
Totally.
No, though. So I would encourage everybody to pick up every one of these holiday books that comes out this year, and then compare them all. And I think we're pretty confident that ours is going to, come out on top of just about all the others. So yeah, I mean, you don't want there to be so many that people are tired of them in general as a concept, but I think we're both so happy with what we produced here that I think it's going to really deliver, even compared to all the others that are coming.
It's a fun thing. I think the holidays are one of those things that there's traditions to it, where we watch the same movies over and over again, and so on and so forth. And I do think that this is now some people. I don't think I'm the only person that's going to pick up this Dread the Halls every year and pick up, like I mentioned before, and read them again every year. Why not, right? I forget comics I read last month, so like it's easy enough for me to forget what was in last year's book to read it again this year. I mean, you guys wrote the thing, you probably forget what's in last year's book. No, it's just the way it is. And so I think that that's cool. And I think now that I have maybe the weekend prior, I'll be reading 2024 and then read it again with 2025. I think it's worth it. So local comic book shops should have, most of them should have this on the shelf on December 3rd. So go there and check it out. I think this episode is actually going to drop on December 3rd. It's either the week before or that week. And so just go to your local comic book shop and grab it. If they don't have it, they likely could probably potentially get it. So make sure you do that. There's multiple covers on these things. I mean, do you know off the top of your head, Jordan or Chris, who the covers are? Or you have to look that up?
The cover artist?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Maria the Wolf is cover A. She's always our cover A on the franchise. She's definitely, if she's like the fifth Beatle of Dread the Halls, I would say. It's Maria. She's incredible. So she's cover A. Cover B is Luana Vecchio, who did the Hallmark story. Cover C is myself. It's a wraparound. It's a wraparound Christmas present with a gift tag for writing. If you gift it to someone, it has a to from. We did it last year. It was great. Cover D is Toby Wilsmer. Did I say that right, Chris?
Wilmsmer, yeah. He's a New Zealand artist who's primarily done like 2000 AD, Judge Dredd kind of work.
Yeah, which is it's like a really cool Bizarre Adventures 34 painting of Santa and the aliens, and then cover E is Toxic Virgin variant of Maria's cover. So it's just like crazy, like the old Marble Blacklight posters. And yeah, then there's two other special ones. Right, Chris?
Yeah. We did two special ones that are only available through us. So
so cons and signings, which we will be doing a signing at Golden Apple on release day. If you are in LA, we'll be at Golden Apple at 11 a.m. on today or December 3rd. And then Saturday, Chris is Nowhere, right? In San Diego.
Yeah, Nowhere Games and Comics in San Marcos, which is like awesome. North County, San Diego. Yeah.
It's so much fun to do. Like I said, you're in this time in the season. You can be in the holidays. You get a signed copy to give to a person for Christmas. Give it to them early though, so they could read it for Christmas. Right? It's one of those things that we had a present the other day. I'm like, to my wife, I'm like, this is the thing my son wants to play during the holidays. It was a train that was a Grinch train. I'm like, I don't want him playing this. It's like plays Christmas music. I'm like, I don't want him to play that in January. Can we give it to him now so that he can play with it during the time that prior? I mean, it's such a cheaply made. It's gonna break before Christmas anyway. But so I think I'll have it on the 26th. This will come out the 26th. So I moved it up a week. So this will come out a week prior. So you have the ability to go get it in your pull box, do all that stuff, go to these events, get signed comics and things like that. And I believe like Golden Apple and some of these places you can buy them afterwards too. If you are not in that area, they probably sign a few for them.
That's what I was just gonna say. Golden Apple always has us sign like 20 extra ones that they post online that you can order from anywhere. So if you'd like signed copies from Chris and I, go to goldenapple.com. They'll have them on release day.
That's really cool. It's so exciting. I think this is cool, and I think that you guys have built this Dread the Halls world of sorts with the holiday ones and now the summer Comic-Con version of it. I think this is a cool thing, and I think that you guys are great and talented creators and writers on this thing. And I think it's phenomenal. It's beautiful. Again, affordable in the sense of what you get for what the price is amazing, because again, $6.99, $7.99, those areas now with people looking at comics, like as long as it's chunky and has a good quality content in it, it's worth the price for sure. And again, I actually have Graveyard Tales. Is it the R.L. Stein books and from Boom are perfect bound, and they're actually on my trade paperback shelf. They're not even in a comic book thing because they fit so well. So maybe this will end up on that shelf as well, awesome. As a trade of sorts, but not really being a trade. But it's awesome. I love it. So people should get it December 3rd. Wherever comics are sold, it's worth the purchase and worth the reading this holiday season. If you guys agree, do you guys agree with that?
Yes, very much so.
A little biased, but yes.
You have to read it. Buy the covers and comment. You're not going to read each cover, but buy all the covers. I think it's worth it.
I need to end with speaking of metal, a David Lee Roth quote. It's one of my favorites. It's like, if you love it, tell all your friends. If you hate it, tell all your enemies. So there you go.
Hey, actually, I want to give it a shout out to you. You should buy Marvel Age of Comics, Daredevil, which one was yours? Chris,
Born Again. Yeah,
Born Again. Yes, I just read it actually. I read all three of the ones that were coming out. It's the best one out of the three. And what? I have a review up on our website, but mainly it's like you were able to focus on one couple issues, like thing, whereas like doing an entire decade of something and try to squeeze it in that size is a lot harder in my opinion, or not harder, but like I got lost. I was in the Avengers one. It was good, but it was like, okay, there's a lot going on. When you can focus on one storyline, it's a little bit easier for people, and I appreciated that. So I was like, I listened to it actually in an audiobook because I get an advanced copy from Libro FM, and then it came with a PDF. It came with the PDF that you could follow along. So I like listened to an audiobook, then I go back to the PDF and look at all the different cutouts of the different comics and things like that. But yeah, that's actually available.
They didn't ask me to read the audiobook. I don't blame them, but in fact, let me see if I can.
Yeah. Oh, that's right there. Yeah. It technically comes out the day after we're recording this on November 11th. I think the audiobook actually comes out on Thursday, which is weird. It's like they're like 2 days apart for some odd reason. I've seen them come out like weeks apart, but like for 2 days, I'm like, I don't understand that one. But it's awesome. They're cool. I think I'm excited to read the future of these things too. It's a cool little concept to have, like learning chunkets from Marvel and things like that. And I'm a comic book reader, but I'm also into novels and books and things like that. And so like it's like a nice crossover between the two of them, where you can get like if you're ready for to read about something instead of just visually.
Yeah, no, I appreciate the mention, and it's one of those things where I love digging into all the reasons why some books last or resonate or influence other creators. And Born Again is certainly one that I think has done all of those things. So yeah, it was fun to spend 30,000 words basically talking about why I think it's so great.
It's awesome. It's I knew some of the stuff too, which is also fun. But like I think reading Born Again is amazing. But to read it and then read the stuff that surrounds it and read your take on things or your history or your research on it is really cool on that stuff too. So grab that too. That's a great Christmas present for anybody who's a Daredevil fan or a Frank Miller fan or Marvel Comics fan or any of them. Actually, grab all three of them. They're not that bad. They're awesome. But yeah, thank you so much, both of you, for taking time out of your busy schedules to come on here and chat. Dread the Halls, available December 3rd at comic book shops all over. But yeah, we'll have you again on at some point in the future. Maybe we'll come on this summer and talk Dread the Hall Age.
That'd be great.
I would love it.
Yeah,
and we still got to get Jordan. You still got to get come on and talk Ripple Effects at some point too. We got to get that happening. We mentioned that like when you were on with Cabinet, which was like 2 years ago. So we'll do that soon too. But yeah, I appreciate you both taking the time out to chat with me today.
Of course.
Yeah, great talking to you.